In a land forgotten by time, hidden beyond the farthest mountains and the thickest forests, there lay a kingdom that had once thrived in wealth and beauty. This kingdom, unknown to the world for centuries, had slowly faded from the memories of those who once spoke its name with reverence. Over the years, its grand palaces crumbled into ruins, and the bustling streets that once echoed with laughter and music were now silent, claimed by the creeping vines of the wild. One day, a young traveler named Anna, known for her insatiable curiosity, found herself wandering deep into the unknown. She had heard stories of lost cities and forgotten realms, but had never expected to stumble upon one herself. With the sun setting behind her, casting long shadows over the dense canopy, Anna's eyes caught the faint outline of ancient stone structures barely visible through the foliage. Anna, her heart beating faster with excitement, ventured closer. Her feet crushed the dry leaves beneath her as she moved toward what appeared to be the entrance of an old city. There were no roads leading in or out of this place, no signs that anyone had set foot here in generations. Yet, something about it felt alive, as though the very stones whispered stories of a forgotten past. As she crossed the threshold into the kingdom, the air seemed to change, becoming thick with a strange energy. Anna looked around, taking in the remnants of what must have once been a magnificent city. Tall spires, though weathered by time, still stood, and intricately carved statues lay half-buried beneath layers of moss and dirt. The streets, now overrun by nature, hinted at a time of great prosperity, but now all that remained were the echoes of its former glory. She wandered deeper into the city, her footsteps echoing softly against the hollow structures. In the center of what must have once been a grand square, Anna noticed a large statue of a woman, her face hidden by the shadows of the overhanging trees. Intrigued, she stepped closer, reaching out to brush away the vines that had grown over the statue's features. As her fingers touched the cold stone, a sudden chill ran through her body. She stepped back, startled, as the air around her seemed to shift once more. The statue's eyes, though made of stone, appeared to flicker with life for a brief moment. Anna blinked, wondering if it was just her imagination. But before she could collect her thoughts, she heard a soft voice, barely more than a whisper, carried on the wind. "You have found me," the voice said, its tone both sorrowful and relieved. Anna looked around, trying to find the source of the voice, but there was no one else in sight. She turned her attention back to the statue, now feeling an inexplicable connection to the figure before her. "I am the queen of this forgotten kingdom," the voice continued, "cursed to remain here until someone with a pure heart releases me." Anna's heart raced. Could it be that the ghost of a long-dead queen was speaking to her? The idea seemed impossible, yet here she was, standing in the middle of an ancient, forgotten kingdom, speaking with a voice that seemed to come from another world. The queen's voice told Anna of a time when this kingdom was alive with music and joy, a time when its people flourished under the warm sun. The queen had ruled with kindness and wisdom, beloved by all who knew her, but that happiness had been short-lived. A terrible curse had befallen the kingdom, cast by a jealous sorcerer who envied the queen's power and beauty. The curse had not only claimed the lives of the kingdom's people, turning them to stone, but it had also trapped the queen's spirit within the city, unable to leave, forced to watch her once vibrant kingdom decay into ruin. For centuries, the queen had waited, her voice growing weaker with each passing year, hoping that someone would come to set her free. Anna, overwhelmed by the weight of the queen's story, felt a deep sadness wash over her. The queen had lived through the downfall of her kingdom and had been left alone, with nothing but her memories of a lost world. Anna knew to proceed cautiously, unsure of how she could help a spirit trapped by a curse so ancient and powerful. The weight of the queen's sorrow filled the air around her, making it hard to breathe, but Anna felt a sense of purpose growing within her. She couldn't turn back now, not after coming so far and hearing the queen's plight. The voice of the queen continued, guiding Anna deeper into the city. As she walked, Anna could almost feel the presence of the people who once lived there, their laughter now long gone, replaced by the eerie silence that hung over everything. The queen spoke of a time when the curse had first taken hold, At first, it had been subtle. The city's people began to notice small things, a crop failure here, a well running dry there. But soon, it became undeniable. The very life was draining from the kingdom, as though the land itself was being poisoned by some unseen force. The people had tried everything they could to reverse the ill fortune that had befallen them. They consulted the wisest sages, performed ancient rituals, and offered prayers to the gods, but nothing worked. One by one, the people began to fall into a deep, unnatural sleep, their bodies turning to stone as they slumbered. The curse spread quickly, and soon, the entire kingdom was frozen in time, its people trapped in stone statues scattered throughout the city. The queen, however, had been spared the same fate, but only because the sorcerer who had cast the curse wanted her to suffer. He had left her spirit bound to the kingdom, forced to watch over the ruins of her once great empire for eternity. The curse had left her unable to die, yet unable to live, a prisoner in her own kingdom. Anna listened intently as the queen told her of the sorcerer who had wrought such destruction. His name had been lost to history, but his power had been unmatched. He had been consumed by jealousy and hatred, coveting the queen's throne, her beauty, and the love of her people. When he could not take them by force, he had turned to dark magic, cursing the land and all who lived within it. Anna felt a cold shiver run down her spine as she tried to imagine the level of cruelty it would take to condemn an entire kingdom to such a fate. But even in the face of such evil, the queen's spirit had endured, waiting for someone who might break the spell. She explained that the curse could be undone, but it would not be easy. The power to lift the curse lay in a hidden artifact, an ancient relic that had been lost when the kingdom fell. The queen described the artifact to Anna, a small, unassuming object, a mirror said to have been forged by the gods themselves. It was no ordinary mirror, but one that could reflect the truth of a soul. Only by finding the mirror and holding it up to the queen's statue could the curse be broken, freeing her and the kingdom from the sorcerer's dark magic. But there was a catch. The mirror was hidden deep within the kingdom, protected by layers of enchantments and tests that only the worthy could pass. Anna's mind raced. She had never expected to stumble upon such a quest, but now that she was here, she knew she couldn't walk away. The queen's fate, and that of her people, rested on her shoulders. With a deep breath, she agreed to help. The queen's voice, though still soft and distant, seemed to brighten with hope at Anna's words. "Be careful," the queen warned. "The path to the mirror is fraught with danger. The sorcerer's magic still lingers in the kingdom, and it will try to stop you. But you must stay strong. Only a pure heart can retrieve the mirror." With those final words, the queen's voice faded, leaving Anna alone once more in the silence of the forgotten city. For a moment, she stood still, her mind reeling with the enormity of the task ahead, but she knew there was no turning back now. She set off deeper into the heart of the kingdom, moving cautiously through the crumbling streets. The further she went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The once grand buildings seemed to lean in on her, their broken windows like hollow eyes watching her every move. Strange shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, and the wind seemed to carry faint whispers of long-forgotten voices. As Anna pressed on, she began to notice statues lining the streets, their faces frozen in expressions of fear and sorrow. These were the people of the kingdom, trapped in stone by the sorcerer's curse. Their eyes seemed to follow her as she passed, silently pleading for release. It was a haunting reminder of what was at stake. Eventually, Anna reached the entrance to a vast underground chamber. This, the queen had told her, was where the mirror was hidden. The chamber was dark and foreboding, with only a few faint rays of light filtering through cracks in the ceiling. Ancient carvings adorned the walls, depicting scenes of the kingdom in its prime, before the curse had taken hold. But now, those images seemed to mock the desolation that surrounded her. Taking a deep breath, Anna stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of damp stone and decay, and her footsteps echoed ominously in the vast space. She could feel the magic in the air, an almost tangible presence that seemed to pulse with each beat of her heart. She knew she was not alone in this chamber. Something was watching her, waiting. As she ventured further into the chamber, the temperature dropped, and a thick mist began to swirl around her feet. The carvings on the walls grew more intricate, depicting not just the kingdom's glory, but also its fall. The scenes showed the people turning to stone, their faces twisted in agony as the curse overtook them. At the center of it all was the sorcerer, his face shrouded in shadow, holding the mirror that had doomed them all. Anna felt a knot of fear tightening in her chest, but she pressed on. She knew the mirror was close, and if she could just reach it, she could save the queen and her people. But the sorcerer's magic was strong here, and it wasn't going to let her succeed without a fight. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Anna stumbled, catching herself on a nearby pillar as the chamber shook violently. From the darkness ahead, a deep, rumbling growl echoed through the chamber, and Anna knew she had awakened something ancient and dangerous. Without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows, a towering creature, its body twisted and deformed by the sorcerer's dark magic. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light as it stalked toward her, its massive claws scraping against the stone floor. This, Anna realized, was one of the guardians the queen had warned her about. It had been left behind to protect the mirror and to stop anyone from freeing the kingdom from its curse. Anna's heart pounded in her chest as the creature advanced, its growls growing louder with each step. She had no weapon, no magic of her own to defend herself. All she had was her determination and the knowledge that she was the only one who could break the curse. With a deep breath, she stood her ground. She had come too far to turn back now. The creature lunged at her, its massive claws swinging through the air. Anna dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow. She scrambled to her feet, her mind racing as she tried to think of a way to outsmart the creature. She couldn't defeat it with strength, but perhaps there was another way. Looking around the chamber, Anna noticed that the carvings on the walls seemed to glow faintly, pulsing in time with the creature's movements. An idea began to form in her mind. The magic that had created the creature was tied to the chamber itself. If she could disrupt that magic, she might be able to stop the creature. Keeping her eyes on the creature, Anna began to move toward the nearest wall. The carvings seemed to shimmer as she approached, and she reached out, running her fingers along the ancient symbols. The moment she touched them, she felt a surge of energy run through her body. The creature let out a roar of fury, as though it could feel the magic weakening. Anna pressed her hand harder against the wall, focusing all her energy on the symbols. The ground shook beneath her feet once more, and the creature staggered, its movements growing sluggish as the magic that fueled it began to fade. With a final, ear-piercing roar, the creature collapsed to the ground, its body disintegrating into a cloud of dust. Anna stood still for a moment, her heart pounding, as the dust settled around her. She had done it. The creature was gone, and the path to the mirror was clear. Without wasting any more time, she hurried deeper into the chamber, her eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of the mirror. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she saw it, a small, simple mirror resting on a pedestal at the far end of the chamber. Anna approached it cautiously, her heart racing with anticipation. This was the key to breaking the curse, the artifact that would free the queen and her people from their eternal prison. She reached out and took the mirror in her hands. It was lighter than she had expected, its surface smooth and cool to the touch. As she gazed into the mirror, she saw her own reflection staring back at her, but there was something different about it, something that she couldn't quite place. For a moment, she felt a strange sense of unease, but she quickly pushed it aside. There was no time for doubt. The queen was waiting, and the curse had to be lifted. With the mirror in hand, Anna turned and began her journey back through the forgotten kingdom. The once oppressive silence seemed heavier now, the weight of the task ahead pressing down on her. The statues that lined the streets seemed to watch her even more intently, as if they knew that their fate rested in her hands. She moved quickly, eager to return to the queen's statue and complete what she had started. The city, though in ruins, seemed to come alive in the fading light of the day. Shadows stretched long across the ground, and the wind whispered softly through the broken walls. Every step Anna took felt significant, as though the very ground beneath her feet was aware of her presence and the mirror she carried. As she retraced her path, the queen's voice echoed faintly in her mind, reminding her of the importance of the task. Anna had only one chance to break the curse. and she knew she had to act swiftly. The air around her began to feel charged with a strange energy, as though the kingdom itself was awakening in response to the mirror's power. At last, she reached the grand square where the queen's statue stood, towering and regal even in its dilapidated state. The vines that had once covered the statue now seemed less menacing, as if they were waiting for what was about to happen. Anna approached the statue slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her, the eyes of countless souls, both those trapped in stone and those long gone, watching her every move. The queen's voice, though distant, spoke to her again. "You are close, Anna. The mirror must be held up to my face. It will show the truth that the sorcerer tried to hide, and only then will the curse be broken." Anna stood before the statue, her hands trembling slightly as she raised the mirror. The reflection of the queen's stone face appeared on its surface, but something began to change almost immediately. The stone seemed to shimmer, and for a moment, it looked as though the queen's true face, not the lifeless stone, was staring back at Anna through the mirror. A soft glow began to emanate from the mirror, growing brighter with each passing second. Anna could feel the energy building around her, the air humming with magic. The curse, which had gripped the kingdom for so long, was starting to unravel. Suddenly, the ground beneath Anna's feet trembled, and she took a step back, still holding the mirror up to the queen's face. The glow intensified, and the statue of the queen began to crack, small pieces of stone flaking away as the true form of the queen started to emerge. Anna watched in awe as the statue continued to break apart, revealing a woman of ethereal beauty beneath the stone. The queen, once trapped in lifeless stone, was now free, her form glowing with the same soft light as the mirror. She stood before Anna, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you," the queen said, her voice no longer an echo but clear and strong. "You have done what no one else could. You have freed me and my people from the curse that has held us captive for so long." Anna felt a surge of joy at the queen's words, but she knew her task was not yet complete. The queen's people, still trapped in stone, were waiting to be freed as well. The queen turned to look at the statues that lined the square, her expression filled with sorrow and determination. "The curse will not be fully lifted until my people are freed," the queen said. "But the mirror's power is enough to break their chains as well. You must help me, Anna." Together, Anna and the queen began to move through the city, holding the mirror up to the faces of the statues. With each one, the same transformation occurred. The stone cracked and fell away, revealing the people beneath. One by one, they were freed from their eternal slumber, their faces filled with confusion and relief as they took their first breaths in centuries. The city, once a silent and forgotten ruin, began to come alive again. The people, disoriented at first, soon realized what had happened. They had been freed from the curse that had held them for so long, and they gathered around the queen, their faces filled with gratitude. As Anna and the queen moved through the city, freeing more and more of the people, the atmosphere began to change. The oppressive weight that had hung over the kingdom for centuries was lifting, and the air felt lighter, fresher. The vines that had once strangled the buildings began to recede, and the cracks in the streets seemed to heal themselves. The kingdom, though still ancient and weathered, was beginning to breathe again. But as the last of the people were freed, Anna felt a strange sensation, a nagging feeling that something was still wrong. She couldn't shake the sense that the sorcerer's presence still lingered in the city, even though his curse was being undone. The queen seemed to sense it too, her brow furrowing in concern. "The sorcerer's magic is not completely gone," the queen said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. "He may no longer be here in body, but his influence remains. We must be cautious." Anna nodded, her heart sinking slightly. She had hoped that freeing the queen and her people would be the end of the ordeal, but it seemed that the sorcerer's dark legacy was not so easily erased. As night began to fall over the city, Anna and the queen stood at the edge of the grand square, watching as the people began to rebuild their lives. The queen turned to Anna, her expression grave. "You have done more for this kingdom than I could have ever asked," she said. "But there is one final task that remains. The sorcerer's magic still lurks in the darkest corners of this kingdom, and if it is not rooted out, the curse could return. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. "What do we need to do?" she asked. The queen looked out over the city, her gaze distant. "The source of the sorcerer's power lies in a place even deeper than the chamber where you found the mirror. There is a hidden sanctuary, far beneath the city, where the sorcerer performed the dark rituals that gave him his power. That place must be destroyed." Anna's heart raced. She had already faced so much, but she knew she couldn't stop now. The fate of the kingdom depended on it. With a nod, she agreed to help the queen one last time. The queen led Anna to an ancient, forgotten temple at the edge of the city. It was hidden deep within the forest, overgrown with thick vines, and nearly swallowed by the earth. The entrance was barely visible, but as they approached, the air grew colder, and Anna could feel the remnants of the sorcerer's dark magic emanating from within. They entered the temple, the air inside heavy with the scent of damp stone and decay. The walls were covered in strange symbols, much like the ones Anna had seen in the chamber with the mirror, but these felt darker, more sinister. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It was as though the very walls of the temple were alive with the sorcerer's magic, watching their every move. At the heart of the temple, they found it. A dark, swirling vortex of magic, pulsating with an unnatural light. This, the queen explained, was the source of the sorcerer's power, the place where he had drawn his strength and cast the curse that had doomed the kingdom. Anna felt a wave of dread wash over her as she looked at the vortex. The magic it contained was ancient and dangerous, and she knew that destroying it would not be easy. Anna stood before the swirling vortex of dark magic, her heart pounding in her chest. The energy emanating from it was unlike anything she had ever felt before. It wasn't just powerful, it was alive, throbbing, and pulsating with an almost sentient malice. The air around her grew colder, and the faint whispers of the sorcerer's lingering magic seemed to echo in the dark corners of the temple. The queen stood beside her, her face set with determination, but tinged with sadness. "This is the source of the curse," the queen said softly. "It was here that the sorcerer performed his darkest rituals, binding the fate of the kingdom to his will. As long as this vortex exists, the curse will never truly be broken." Anna swallowed hard. She had come so far, but now she was faced with the most dangerous part of her journey. She knew the vortex had to be destroyed, but the thought of confronting such a dark and powerful force filled her with dread. Still, there was no turning back. The fate of the kingdom and of the queen's people rested on her shoulders. "What must I do?" Anna asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. The queen turned to her, her eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. "The mirror you hold is the key," she explained. "Just as it revealed the truth of my form and freed my people from the curse, it can also undo the magic that binds this vortex. But it will require all of its power, and once it is done, the mirror will be destroyed." Anna looked down at the mirror in her hands. It had felt like a lifeline, a powerful artifact that had saved so many. The idea of destroying it made her heart ache, but she knew it was the only way to ensure the curse would never return. With a deep breath, she nodded. "I'm ready." The queen stepped back, allowing Anna to approach the vortex. As she raised the mirror, the swirling darkness seemed to recoil, as though it recognized the threat to its existence. The whispers in the air grew louder, angrier, and the ground beneath Anna's feet began to tremble. But she didn't waver. She held the mirror steady, pointing it directly at the heart of the vortex. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a soft glow began to emanate from the mirror's surface, growing brighter and brighter until it was blinding. The vortex let out a low, rumbling growl, and the dark magic within it seemed to twist and writhe, as if in pain. Anna could feel the mirror growing warm in her hands, its power surging through her as it fought against the sorcerer's curse. The light from the mirror intensified, and Anna could feel the dark magic weakening, unraveling under the weight of the mirror's truth. The vortex began to shrink, its once massive form now flickering and unstable. But as the mirror's power grew stronger, so did the resistance from the dark magic. The whispers turned into a deafening roar, and the ground shook violently as the vortex fought to maintain its hold on the kingdom. Anna gritted her teeth, focusing all her strength on the mirror. She knew that if she faltered now, all would be lost. The mirror's glow became so intense that it seemed to consume the entire temple, casting away every shadow, every trace of the sorcerer's dark influence. And then, with a final, ear-splitting crack, the vortex shattered. The dark magic exploded outward in a burst of light and sound, dissolving into nothingness as it was consumed by the mirror's power. The air in the temple became still, and the oppressive weight of the sorcerer's magic was gone. Anna stumbled back, exhausted, the mirror now cold and lifeless in her hands. The once glowing surface was dull, its power spent. She stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, her heart pounding in her chest. It was over. The sorcerer's magic had been destroyed, and the kingdom was finally free. The queen approached Anna, her face filled with gratitude and relief. "You've done it," she said softly. "The curse is broken, and the sorcerer's power is no more. My people are free, and the kingdom can begin to heal. Thank you, Anna." Anna looked up at the queen, a tired but satisfied smile on her face. "I couldn't have done it without you." The queen smiled gently, but there was a lingering sadness in her eyes. "The mirror is gone now, and so too is the magic that held me in this world. My time here is ending." Anna's smile faltered. "You mean you're leaving?" The queen nodded. "I've been bound to this kingdom for centuries, unable to move on. But now that the curse is broken, I can finally find peace. My people will be able to rebuild, and they will thrive once more. But I must go." Anna felt a lump form in her throat. She had grown attached to the queen, and the thought of losing her now felt like another kind of loss. But she knew that the queen deserved her peace after all she had endured. "Thank you," Anna said quietly, "for guiding me, for trusting me. I'll never forget this." The queen reached out, placing a gentle hand on Anna's shoulder. "And I will never forget you, Anna. You've saved more than just a kingdom. You've given hope to those who had none." With that, the queen began to fade, her form becoming translucent as the last remnants of magic that held her in the world dissolved. Her final words echoed softly in the temple as she disappeared. "May the light always guide your way." Anna stood in the now empty temple, the weight of the queen's departure heavy on her heart. But she knew that the queen was at peace, and that her people would now have a chance to rebuild their lives. Slowly, Anna made her way back to the city. The atmosphere had changed entirely. Where once there had been only silence and decay, there was now life. The people who had been trapped in stone were moving through the streets, keening away the vines and debris, restoring their homes and shops. Laughter filled the air, and the city that had once been forgotten was beginning to come alive once more. The transformation was breathtaking. The once barren streets were now filled with color and light as the people worked to rebuild the kingdom. The once silent and broken kingdom now pulsed with life and energy, and Anna could feel the hope in the air, as though the city itself had been reborn. Anna moved through the streets, watching as the people celebrated their newfound freedom. They greeted her with smiles and gratitude, offering thanks for what she had done. But Anna felt that she had simply been a vessel for something greater, a force of destiny that had brought her to this forgotten kingdom to restore what had been lost. As she reached the edge of the city, she turned back one last time to look at the place she had come to know so well. The grand square where she had first met the queen now stood at the heart of a city filled with hope and possibility. The statues that had once been silent, frozen reminders of a tragic past, were now gone, replaced by the bustling, joyful movement of people reclaiming their lives. Anna smiled, feeling a sense of peace and fulfillment. The queen's legacy would live on in the people she had saved, and Anna knew that this kingdom would never be forgotten again. With a final glance at the reborn city, Anna turned and began her journey back into the world, her heart filled with the memories of the forgotten kingdom and the queen who had trusted her to set it free. As Anna left the kingdom behind, the weight of her journey still lingered in her heart. The dense forest closed in around her once more, but now the air felt lighter, the oppressive silence of the forgotten kingdom replaced by the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves in the wind. It was as though nature itself had recognized the shift in the kingdom's fate, the land breathing freely once more. She walked for hours, the path winding through the forest, her thoughts drifting back to everything that had happened. The queen's face, so filled with sorrow and gratitude, haunted her mind. The people, emerging from their stone prisons, starting their lives anew. Anna knew they had a long road ahead of them, but they would rebuild, stronger than before. Yet, despite the joy of freeing the kingdom, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed within her. She had always been a wanderer, driven by a desire to uncover the unknown, but now she felt different. This journey had been unlike any other. It wasn't just about discovery, it was about responsibility, courage, and sacrifice. She had faced ancient magic, a curse that had devastated an entire civilization, and somehow, she had emerged victorious. But victory, she realized, did not come without its costs. The queen was gone, her people left to navigate a world that had long since moved on from the days of their empire. They would rebuild, yes, but there was no erasing the pain of what had been lost. The memories of a life trapped in stone, of a kingdom lost to time, would never truly fade. Anna wondered if she would ever return to see how they had fared, but deep down, she knew her journey was far from over. There were other forgotten places, other hidden stories waiting to be uncovered. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting the forest in a golden glow. As Anna walked, she came upon a clearing where a small, bubbling stream flowed gently through the rocks. The sight of the clear water and the soft murmur of the stream gave her a sense of peace. She decided to rest for a while, letting the cool breeze wash over her as the sky turned shades of pink and purple. Sitting by the stream, Anna reflected on the queen's final words to her. "May the light always guide your way." The words had resonated with her deeply, as though the queen had imparted not just a blessing, but a responsibility. Anna had always followed her own path, but now, she felt a stronger sense of purpose. She had been guided to the forgotten kingdom for a reason, and she had answered that call. What awaited her next, she couldn't be sure, but she knew that this was only the beginning of something much larger. As the night fell, the stars began to emerge, twinkling like diamonds scattered across the sky. Anna lay back on the soft grass, staring up at the vast expanse above her. The journey ahead was unknown, but she felt a strange comfort in that. The world was filled with mysteries, and each step she took would bring her closer to uncovering them. But for now, she allowed herself to rest, letting the peace of the moment envelop her. The next morning, Anna rose with the sun. The forest was alive with the sounds of animals waking to greet the new day, and the light filtered through the trees, casting long, dappled shadows on the ground. She gathered her things and set off once more, her heart lighter, her steps more sure. She didn't know where the path would lead her next, but she had no doubt that it would be filled with adventure. Days passed as Anna journeyed further from the forgotten kingdom. The landscape changed gradually, the dense forests giving way to open plains and rolling hills. She encountered villages along the way, places where life continued as it always had, unaffected by the hidden magic and curses that lingered in the corners of the world. But Anna knew better than anyone that even the most ordinary places could hold extraordinary secrets. It was in one such village, nestled at the foot of a towering mountain range, that Anna first heard whispers of another strange, forgotten place. The locals spoke in hushed tones of a temple high in the mountains, a place that no one dared to enter. The stories were vague. Some claimed it was the home of ancient gods. Others said it was a gateway to another world. But what intrigued Anna most was the claim that no one who ventured there ever returned. Her curiosity piqued. Anna made her way to the edge of the village, where an old woman sat weaving baskets outside her small home. The woman's hands moved skillfully over the reeds, her eyes sharp and knowing. "You're the traveler, aren't you?" the woman said without looking up. Anna nodded. "I've heard stories about a temple in the mountains. What can you tell me about it?" The old woman paused, her fingers stilling over the basket she was weaving. She looked up at Anna, her eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and caution. "Many have gone to that temple," the woman said, her voice low. "None have returned. They say the mountain itself is alive, that it chooses who is allowed to pass and who is not." Anna frowned. "What do you mean?" The old woman shrugged, returning to her weaving. The stories go back generations. Some say it's cursed, others say it's protected by spirits. But the truth is, no one knows for sure. All we know is that those who climb the mountain are never seen again. Anna felt a familiar thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. Another mystery, another place forgotten by time. It was exactly the kind of thing she had been searching for. "What do you think is up there?" Anna asked, her voice soft but insistent. The old woman chuckled, a sound that was both amused and weary. "I think that there are some things in this world that are meant to stay forgotten, but you don't strike me as the kind of person who would listen to that advice." Anna smiled, her resolve hardening. The call of the unknown was too strong to resist. She thanked the woman and made her way back to the center of the village, her mind already racing with possibilities. The next morning, with supplies packed and a clear path ahead, Anna set off toward the mountains. The village faded into the distance behind her as the towering peaks loomed ever closer. The air grew cooler as she ascended, the path becoming steeper and more treacherous with each step. As she climbed, she thought back to the forgotten kingdom and the queen who had trusted her with the fate of her people. That journey had changed her, had taught her the value of persistence and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Whatever awaited her at the temple in the mountains, she would face it with the same strength and determination. The higher she climbed, the more the world below seemed to shrink away, the vast expanse of land disappearing into the mist. The mountain was quiet, save for the occasional gust of wind that howled through the rocky crags. It felt as though the mountain was watching her, waiting to see if she would prove worthy of whatever lay at the summit. Days passed as Anna continued her climb. The path became more difficult, the air thinner, but she pressed on, driven by the same force that had carried her through the forgotten kingdom. She knew that whatever she was meant to find at the temple would reveal itself in time. And so, Anna climbed, higher and higher, her heart filled with both trepidation and anticipation, her steps echoing against the ancient stones of the mountain. The world around her was vast and mysterious, and she was ready to uncover whatever secrets it held. Anna continued her ascent, the mountain growing steeper with every step, the air thin and cold against her skin. The village below was now a distant memory, swallowed by the mist that clung to the mountainside like a heavy veil. Each day brought new challenges, narrow, crumbling paths, jagged rocks that threatened to tear at her hands and feet, and the ever-present wind that seemed determined to push her back down the mountain. But Anna pressed on, her resolve unshaken. She had come too far to turn back now, and whatever mystery awaited her at the summit, she was determined to face it. Her body ached from the climb, but the fire of her curiosity kept her moving forward. The landscape around her grew more desolate as she climbed higher. Trees became sparse, and the only sounds were the wind and the crunch of her boots against the gravel. Occasionally, she would catch a glimpse of movement out of the corner of her eye, a shadow darting between rocks or a flicker of light in the distance. But whenever she turned to look, there was nothing there. It was as though the mountain itself was playing tricks on her, testing her resolve. After days of grueling travel, the path finally leveled out, leading her to a narrow plateau nestled high among the peaks. Anna paused for a moment, her breath catching in her throat, as she took in the sight before her. The temple stood at the far end of the plateau, ancient and weathered by time, its once grand pillars now cracked and crumbling. It was a structure of immense scale, its dark stone walls rising out of the mountainside like a fortress built by the gods themselves. The air around the temple was thick with an eerie stillness. The wind, which had howled and roared through the mountains for days, now seemed to vanish completely. The silence was almost suffocating. Anna's heart raced as she approached the temple's entrance, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. The temple was more than just a ruin. It was a place that felt alive with history, with ancient secrets buried deep within its stone walls. Anna could feel the weight of its significance pressing down on her, as though the very air was heavy with the memories of those who had come before her. She could see why the villagers spoke of it with such fear and reverence. There was a presence here, something ancient and powerful, that had watched over this place for countless centuries. With a deep breath, Anna stepped through the temple's massive stone archway. The interior was dark, the only light coming from the faint slivers of sunlight that filtered through the cracks in the walls. The air was cold and damp, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of decay and time. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she could make out the faint outlines of carvings along the walls, intricate patterns and symbols, the meaning of which was long lost to time. The further she ventured into the temple, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It felt as though the walls were closing in around her, as though the very air was thick with the weight of the past. She could feel the presence of something or someone watching her, though she saw no one. Her footsteps echoed unnervingly in the vast, empty space. At the center of the temple, she came upon a grand chamber, its ceiling towering high above her. In the center of the chamber stood a stone altar, and upon it rested an object, a small, intricately carved box. It was the only thing in the room that seemed untouched by time, its surface gleaming faintly in the dim light. Anna approached the altar cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The air in the chamber seemed to hum with energy, as though the very stone around her was alive with the same ancient power that had drawn her here. She reached out a hand, her fingers brushing the surface of the box. As soon as she made contact, the room seemed to come alive. A sudden rush of wind swept through the chamber, whipping through her hair and sending chills down her spine. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and from the shadows a figure emerged. It was tall and cloaked in darkness, its features hidden from view, but its presence was unmistakable. This was the guardian of the temple, the being that had kept watch over this place for centuries. Anna froze, her breath catching in her throat. The figure stepped forward, its movements slow and deliberate, as though it had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "You have come far, traveler," the figure said, its voice deep and resonant, echoing off the stone walls. "But do you understand what you seek?" Anna stood tall, her fear tempered by her resolve. "I seek the truth of this place, the answers to the stories that have been forgotten." The figure tilted its head slightly, as though considering her words. "This temple holds more than answers," it said. "It holds power. Power that has been hidden away from the world for a reason. You seek knowledge, but are you prepared for the cost?" Anna hesitated. She had faced curses, ancient magic, and untold dangers before, but this felt different. The air in the chamber was thick with an ominous energy, and she could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. But she had come this far, and she couldn't turn back now. "I am prepared," she said, her voice steady. The figure nodded slowly, stepping aside and gesturing toward the box on the altar. "Then take it. But know this, once the box is opened, there is no turning back." Anna's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped forward. She reached out once more, her fingers closing around the box. It was cold to the touch, heavier than she had expected. She lifted it carefully, holding it in her hands as she turned back to the figure. For a moment, the chamber was silent, the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. Then, with a deep breath, Anna opened the box. A blinding light erupted from within, flooding the chamber and enveloping her in its glow. Anna gasped, her mind overwhelmed by the sudden rush of energy. She could feel it pulsing through her, filling her with knowledge, with the truth of the temple and the power it held. Visions flashed before her eyes of the ancient gods who had built this place, of the rituals that had been performed here, and of the power that had been sealed away, hidden from the world for millennia. The truth was overwhelming, more than she had ever imagined. The temple was not just a place of worship, it was a prison, a place where the ancient gods had bound their greatest enemy, a being of unimaginable power. The box she held in her hands was the key to that prison, and by opening it, she had set something in motion that could not be undone. As the light faded, Anna collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The weight of the knowledge she had gained pressed down on her, and she struggled to make sense of it all. The figure stood over her, its expression unreadable. "You have learned the truth," it said quietly. "Now you must decide what to do with it." Anna looked up, her mind racing. She had sought answers, but now she was faced with a choice she had never anticipated. The power contained within the temple was immense, but it was also dangerous. If it were to be unleashed, it could change the world forever. But at what cost? She rose to her feet, her hands trembling as she clutched the box. She knew what she had to do. With a final, determined breath, Anna closed the box and placed it back on the altar. The figure watched in silence as she stepped away, her decision made. "The power of this place must remain hidden," she said softly. "Some things are not meant to be unleashed." The figure nodded, its form fading back into the shadows. "You have chosen wisely, traveler. The world is not yet ready for the truth of this place, but one day it may be." As the figure disappeared, the chamber fell silent once more. Anna stood alone, the weight of her decision settling over her like a heavy cloak. She had come seeking answers.